Good afternoon, everyone. This is a recording of um, the two articles that we're supposed to cover. The first article was putting the enterprise into the enterprise system, and the second one was how to master the enterprise system, learning how to master it. And I think there are group one and group two did a presentation, and I wanted to follow up with this one to make sure that everyone got the important message from these two papers. In the first paper, the main idea was that ERP systems are not a panacea. They are really, they have a lot of capabilities. They are enterprise systems. They support the whole enterprise. They support business processes, but they will not solve all of your problems. And you have to be aware of the fact that they come with their own set of challenges. As an executive, as an IT professional, you need to make sure that the tool that you will use is aligned with the corporate strategy. What does that mean? It means that when you are implementing that new system, you have to make sure that this system will help you achieve your strategic objectives. You don't want a system that will have a very a minor impact on the strategic objective and the strategic orientation of the company. You want, given that this is a very expensive system, you want to make sure that it will really help you make a difference in that organization. It will help you be more profitable, more effective, help you improve your customer relationship. So that's the main idea behind the first paper. The second thing, the part of the idea they are not a panacea is that they are also may not improve or sustain your competitive edge. You understand profitability really depend on your competitive advantage within the market. ERP systems may compromise the competitive advantage, especially in the short run. Maybe in the long run, you can adapt and you can make improvement within the organization to align business processes outside of the system with those inside. But in the short run, they may compromise competitive edge. They may compromise your customer service, your ability to service customers. Because if this is important, you may be doing certain things that the best practices that are against best practices. We have to understand that ERP systems are based on best practices. So you may take shortcuts in order to satisfy the customer. In the short run, these shortcuts may help you improve your profitability, but they may be affecting something else in the long run. I'm saying that they will compromise competitive edge in the short run until you align your business processes with those inside of the system. What's inside of the system is based on best practices, as we said. You may not have best practices because you're mainly focusing on one thing or a specific thing. The system takes the whole enterprise into perspective. So in the short run, you may have a disadvantage using that kind of system. Again, that comes to the last point. You have to understand the system is built so that organizations change their own processes to be aligned with those inside of the system, not the other way around. This is not a system that is easy or simple that you can change yourself. It requires a lot of expertise for you to be able to change the system. And we talked at the very beginning of the semester about configuration and customization. This is a system that's not built to be customized. It is built to be configured, meaning perform certain selections. but it is not an easy task for you to customize it to fit your need. It was built around best practices, so the expectation is you will change so that you become or you implement best practices. That's basically the idea of the first paper. Some of the important things that I hope you all got from our discussion so far is, why would companies go and install ERP systems? Well, because they want, the very first objective is really integration. They want to solve that problem of information fragmentation, that you have a piece of information here, a piece of information there, they are not integrated, and it becomes hard for me as an executive to see the big picture. ERP systems have these central databases, one place where you store all of your information. The fact that I have one central database that I give access to many users to allow information to flow easily from one department to the other, and also in and out of the organization. Well, out to where? And I want you, when you are listening to me or reading these PowerPoints or reading these articles, to always ask yourself, out where? Out to suppliers, out to customers, out to business partners. They wanted ERP systems because of the promise to improve customer service. And again, I want you to ask yourself how. The answer is customer service will be improved because ERP systems automate a lot of the phases in a business process. You can automatically invoice, you can automatically send purchase orders to vendors. Inventory, like reduction inventory, is seen in real time, and so on. So customer service is definitely improved because of several things. Our ability to reduce the time it takes to process an order. So we are able to fulfill orders in a shorter period of time. We are able to communicate better with customers. We provide information instantly. Your ERP system, customers may be able to see things within your ERP systems like shipping, for example, or the status of a particular order. And all of you can log on to these online systems for different vendors and see if they have ordered, if they have placed an order, where the order is at a specific point on time. You can get a lot of information from the customers on the service or the goods you provide, and use that information into customer relationship management and manufacturing in order to improve the design or the offering of a particular product or service. So definitely customer service will be improved with ERP because of the automation, because the shortening of time, because of the ability to communicate with customers and get their ideas and connect these ideas with manufacturing and service provision. Of course, ERP systems will help us reduce inventory. And again, I want you to ask yourself why. Because we have connection with the suppliers. Because suppliers can see the level of our inventory. They can replenish when we need to replenish. I don't need to keep a large inventory. At any point in time, the supplier can see and they can provide at that time. So I have just-in-time inventory. Yes, we shorten the business cycle because many processes are automated. That comes back to the customer service. We reduce the cost because we are reducing resources. We don't need as many human resources as we used to because of the automation, because we do not have as many errors as before, because the system validates everything. So the business processes are streamlined. They are improved. One thing is because this system has embedded business processes that are best practices, the best in the industry. So definitely you will streamline your business processes. And the fact that you are using only one system throughout the organization will definitely reduce IT maintenance cost. What are the main features of an ERP system? Okay, the first thing is the fact that we have a three-tier architecture. We have a client, we have an application server, we have a database server. These are the three tiers. And definitely that client-server architecture will improve accessibility, because now clients can be anywhere and they can log on to the server the way you are. You can access SAP in the lab, on your computer, at school, at home. So that definitely improve accessibility. You don't have to be at work in your office in order to access the system. You can access it anywhere you want. The second thing is that central database. The fact we have only one database to carry all of the information. We don't have these disparate databases that are spread throughout the organization. So definitely you reduce redundancy. You don't have that repetition, because you don't need to repeat. You are storing everything in one place. So because I have only one place, I have only one figure, for example, for sales, there is no inconsistencies. The sales department cannot report sales that's different from financials. It's exactly the same figure, because they are pulling from the same place, from the same database. There are no inconsistencies in the data. There is only one version of the truth. Another feature, of course, is that integrated modules. You have these different modules that support each other. There is no business process that will remain in only one module. When we covered sales and distribution, we went from one module to the other. We went into sales order, and then went into inventory, and then went into shipping, and then went into financials. So you are never able to go on one screen and finish everything. You have to move between different screens. Now remember, yes, you are doing the whole exercise as a student, but in organization it's very different. In organizations, different people assume different roles and perform pieces of that exercise. So one person, all they do is entering sales orders and maybe checking inventory. And you have another in financials who's entering the invoice and receiving the payment. They are not the same. You have role-based system, as we said. Every person plays a specific role. And based on that role, the role defines what do they get to do within the system. What can they see? Can they open any screen? No. The answer is no. Because if you give them that power, meaning full access to the system, they can commit fraud and no one will know. You have these embedded IT controls that prevent certain things from happening, prevent fraud, prevent inconsistencies, prevent errors. So I cannot bill a customer that did not order from me. I cannot pay a vendor for goods that I have not received from that particular vendor. You have support for multiple languages, multiple currencies. So if you are a multinational organization with divisions outside of the US, then you are able to have different languages. The system appear in different languages, or the screens appear in different languages, you are able to consolidate across company codes. So we said every division will have its own company code because every division has, or every subsidiary will have to generate its own balance sheet for its stakeholders. So, but the fact that I have different subsidiaries will not prevent me to consolidate everything into one balance sheet at the end. So IBM Global can generate its own balance sheet. But then IBM Germany can have its own again. So I can consolidate, or I can go to an individual site, and the system will allow me to see both views. Of course, we've already covered the fact that it is built on best practices. So these are basically the main features of SAP, of ERP systems. Now comes the question, so why do companies fail in implementing ERP systems? Well, some of the things is technical. Some of the things are administrative or related to the organization itself. You have to understand this is not an easy system, and I guess you all now have a feel, and we're only looking at 2 modules, 2 out of 200, or 2, I think it's actually 2,000 different modules in the system. And Prague is just one drop. I mean, like, there are, I think, around 50 different courses that they have developed for the universities, and we get to use only 3 throughout the semester. So it is a very big system. It is very complex. There are many choices that you can make within. When we start configuration, you will get also a taste of that. And it is very difficult to customize. It requires a lot of expertise in order for you to be able to change the code behind that system. So because of that complexity, companies fail because they don't have the right expertise to handle that complexity. They don't know what choices to make during the configuration process. They don't understand, like, there is no way you can implement the whole system throughout the organization at once. And I think the second paper keep on emphasizing that point. So companies may not have the financial resources. So you have to understand, and I think in the second paper they were talking about 1 million for small companies, and we're talking about $100 million invested when you're talking about large multinational organizations trying to implement ERP system. Now, this is a system based on standardization. You want to standardize across the organization. And if you are in an industry, let's say oil and gas, you're trying to use SAP, you have to understand that all other companies in that industry who are implementing SAP have access to everything that you have. So there is no way you can differentiate yourself on the basis of ERP systems. What you have, others within the industry have. It's the same like Microsoft Office. Would you expect your Word or PowerPoint to be different from anybody else? No, it's the same. So it's difficult to differentiate yourself from your competitors based on ERP. People may ask, so why is this important? I mean, okay, there is no differentiation between me and my competitors, so what? Well, because you are investing so much money in that system, you want a return, at least an improvement in profitability, and you're always trying to beat your competitors. So if you are investing that heavy amount of money, it better be translated into improvement in profit, an increase in profit than other players in the market. So here we are saying this will not happen. We've already talked about the fact that the expectation is you change your own business processes than changing the logic. The other thing is this is a system that pushes on the company full integration. You get benefit if you are implementing more than one module. So don't tell me I'm going to implement only financials. Well, what's the benefit? The benefit is if you have HR, sales, manufacturing, all of these talking to each other. The second, you want to standardize across. You don't want one unit or one division performing the process in one way and another division performing it in another way. So because there is full integration, because of the standardization, that may compromise your competitive edge. There is no way you can bypass the system or override it. The system will not allow, it's not very flexible. It will not allow you to bypass certain steps unless there is a reason. And again, there are ways for you when you are doing the configuration to select certain things and deselect, but once you specify the process, then it becomes standard all across. So how can we avoid these common mistakes that companies do and result in their failure in ERP systems? The first thing, you have to be clear, as we said at the very beginning, you need to align the ERP system with your strategic objective. You have to make sure that this system will help you achieve your goals. You need to not look just at the system, you want to stress the enterprise. The second thing is, do not expect yourself to be changing the system. As we said, this is a complex system. It is very risky and very expensive for you to change the system. And let me tell you why. I mean, like we said, yeah, it requires expertise. But again, if you are constantly changing the system yourself, every time they roll out a new version, you have to add new code. You have to write new code in order to change that new version. So it's much easier to re-engineer your business processes than to change the system. Then the fact that let's say you are a multinational organization, you don't expect, of course, the subdivision or subsidiary in Germany to work exactly the same like in the US. And the markets are different, the customers are different, the culture is different. So the paper ends saying you have to really follow a federalist operational model, which means that you cannot have the same implementation all across in every single module. You have to look what is common across the organization and standardize it, but then identify these modules or these features that need to be unique to the different geographical regions, and then let each region have its own version of that module. Well, for a simple reason, let me tell you, taxes are different. The calculation of taxes in different countries is totally different. So there is no way that we can have a standard way of calculating taxes, and that's a very simple thing. Same thing, HR rules and regulations are different. So there is no way that I can have everything common all across. The other point is that we really need to understand that we have to change the organizational structure. So we cannot have someone that will block the flow of information. And you may need to create new roles in order to take advantage. And it's not rows right there, I'm going to change it. It's actually roles. So that needs an L and then ES at the end. So, and again, I'm going to give you an example. These systems collect huge amount of data. All transactional data are within the ERP system. One new role that you really need to introduce in order to make advantage of um, ERP systems is someone to handle analytics, to analyze the data, to support decision making. Yes, there is a module in there that will give you multidimensional reporting, and we actually do an exercise towards the end of the semester with multidimensional reporting, and we do um, executive dashboards. But then you really need someone who will that's their role. So you have to also make sure that you have the right people and human resources. As I said, this is a complex system. You cannot expect people who have never used ERP systems to do the configuration. Of course, you need end users to be there while you're configuring the system, but you also need a consultant, someone who has expertise to help you with that. These consultants will help you because they have seen other implementations in other organizations. So let's say, I mean, like you are working in a company 2 years from now, and there is a new system. It's very hard. It's much cheaper, actually. Let me say it that way. It is much cheaper for you to pay for a consultant to help you through implementation than to learn yourself. The consultant will help you avoid a lot of the mistakes that you are prone to make. Will make sure that the critical factors needed for the project are in place. The other most important point is that do not ever try to implement a big system in one phase. It has to be iterative, meaning start with one department, make sure it is a success in that department, and then use that department as a success story, first to motivate others to do the same, second to use its users to train others and help them again avoid problems. Try and create a competitive advantage. Even though we said that ERP system may erode your competitive advantage because that's a standardized system, but remember, when we talk about information systems, we talk about 6 things. When I tell like 3 or 4 students what are the architecture of an ERP or architecture of an IT system, we talk about 6 things. It is people, processes, the networks, the databases, the hardware, and the software. Well, ERP systems are software and databases, but you have other components that you can work with in order to have still maintain a competitive edge. Again, aligning the processes outside of the system with those within the system is a key thing. Having the right people is another important thing. And then doing analytics on the data collected with the system. Not a lot of organizations are actually doing this. They may be getting reports, but they do not look at the historical data and try to see trends. They are starting now. Now you hear a lot about predictive analytics and so on, but definitely not a large number of companies are doing it at this point. So impact on the organization for an ERP system, it will create a flatter organizational structure because now you have information democracy. By that we mean everyone have access to the information they need. They do not have to go to someone else in order to get access to the information. Now, people may see my second bullet and say, isn't that contradictory? You're just saying we have a flatter organization, and then second point, you are saying centralized control. No, it's not. While everyone have access, but you have to understand that they are all getting access from a centralized repository, and that there is only one the one application. The application, any changes in the application kind of are diffused throughout of the organization. So whatever controls you set within the system, they are diffused throughout the organization. There is no way once you set the controls that anyone can offset or bypass or override these controls. So you have these standardized business processes all across. That's all for the first paper. I'm going to save that as a separate video so you don't have a long video to watch. So again, like to summarize what we have talked about in the first paper. The main idea in the first paper was that ERP systems are not a panacea. They will not solve all of your problems. You have to be very careful when implementing these systems. Yes, you can get a lot of advantage in terms of reduction of cost, improving customer service, reducing the time, streamlining your business processes. All of these, yes, are attainable goals. However, you have to understand that this is a very complex system. It requires a lot of resources, and it requires you a lot of thinking before you actually implement it. But what do we mean by that, a lot of thinking? First of all, you need to look at the enterprise and see how will this system help me achieve my strategic objectives. Second thing is, can I change my business processes so that they are aligned with those within the system? Because the system will not change, is not expected. You are not expected to change the system. You are expected to change your business processes to fit the system. The system requires expertise. There is no way that someone who has no experience with SAP or ERP systems in general can successfully implement that system by themselves. You have to take an iterative approach. You cannot do it all in one. And again, we will talk about that again in the second paper. And the system may affect your competitive advantage, that especially in the short run. This is not actually like written in the first paper, but that's what I'm telling you from experience. What we have seen is that in the short run, because your processes may be very different from what's inside of the system, and maybe your processes are designed in order to satisfy a specific stakeholder, and these enterprise systems take this whole enterprise into perspective. In the short run, your competitive edge may be compromised. But in the long run, as you learn, as you adapt, definitely the system will help you sustain your competitive edge. Sustaining it by aligning the hardware, the software, the people, the processes, making sure that you are taking advantage of the data. And then you have to understand, you have to create new roles in order to take advantage of the capabilities within the system. Okay, now we'll go to the second paper, but I'm gonna end this video and then post another video for the other paper. Thank you.